Afternoon, everyone. My name is Summer Sorensen, and I'm a content writer and social media marketing consultant. And I have a very special guest with me today. We're going to be talking with Angela Woodrow, who you see here to my left or right, depending on the orientation of your screen. And just to intro this, we've all worked in organizations where there's been some substantial change, problems in the culture that keep things from really moving smoothly. And that happens to be Angie's specialty with her coaching and consulting company, The Continuum. So, Angie, I'm sure you can regale us with more. What is it that you do to help organizations?
The best way to describe it is that I help organizations seek solutions when the pivot of change causes them to have to reevaluate in what they do. Currently, I'm having conversations with a couple of nonprofit executive directors who need their boards to reset so that they can serve their mission to a better capability. Everyone has capacities, but collectively they have to re energize their capabilities as a board. So that's individual conversations as well as facilitated group conversations. So I help nonprofits seek solutions and then nourish them in the growth process of adapting and achieving those solutions.
That's pretty heavy stuff, but
Yes.
it's very, very needed. So, in the situation you mentioned about helping them reset their boards, does that involve taking people off the board, bringing people on the board, and doing those kind of transitions, or what does that look like?
Well, we're talking about that kitchen table to conference table evolution. And one of the executive directors I was talking about, when I said, okay, let's talk about this, and she goes, my board is at coffee table. We need to get in the kitchen. And I was like, okay. So basically, you're talking about a group of people that were very passionate. They came together and almost in an not almost in an entrepreneurial spirit, they came together to solve a problem. And suddenly, in solving the problem, they had to organize themselves and they became a nonprofit. But their focus and their energy was delivering the solution in the moment. And when you create a structure like a nonprofit so that you can apply for grants or receive donations, you actually need to make sure your foundation is in place and you put up scaffolding around the organization that doesn't complicate the work but serves the work. And knowing how to do that is what I call working smarter instead of harder. For example, to your question, changing out the board. A lot of people start their boards and they're on their boards, and suddenly they become employed by the organization, but they're still on the volunteer board. So they're a staff member that's paid, but they're on the board to vote for decisions about budgeting and their own pay raise. That's what we call a conflict of interest. So
Right.
the further you move into conference table operations, the more you want clear, concise roles and responsibilities so that people are able to do their job well. And in this day and age, there's a lot of collaboration between nonprofits. So you need like with like, especially if you're serving the same population, a shared grant. That those are real things. And you need to have your paperwork and your operations in good condition. And it's necessary work. It's certainly not exciting work, and it's not the everyday work of a board, but it is a process that needs to be done. So having someone like myself from the outside come in and provide structure and support so they can accomplish it. And my service package is a combination of do it for you, but mostly do it with you. Because my goal as a coach is to make sure you learn something and then you're able to go with it and fly and be free by yourselves.
Which is fantastic because, the I could see how it would be very easy to get tripped up by the paperwork and the legalities and all that, and then but having someone like you come in would allow people to um, focus on their passion, but not while still taking care of the things that could trip them up. Right? Is that fair?
Exactly. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
kind of like paying your taxes every year. Do you work on getting your taxes organized every day? Right. But come tax time, you're on it. And there's lots of different systems and things that help you actually organize it and make it go faster. So each individual nonprofit has a set of these tools, but if you don't use them every day, you're not skilled and practiced at it. And um, things change, funding changes, the way you gather information and collect data. It's so necessary to have data. And it's also necessary to have a good story. And you can't have good numbers and a good story. You have to have good numbers inside the good story. So you have to know um, how to collect your data so you're able to do that and apply for grants. And that is a direct through line back to organizational structure and function.
Absolutely. And as you're telling me about stories and numbers, I mean, that goes into my
Exactly.
world of marketing. too. Like you have to be able to tell the numbers, but in a fun story or in a story that speaks to people that you want to speak to.
Exactly.
So yeah, so it's true for marketing a for-profit or a nonprofit, telling those stories to the donors and to the board or whatever your audience is. So that's very critical, a valuable service. You were telling me offline a while back about a client that called you in to do a workshop with her, uh, and then, but during the process of this workshop, where they had this elephant in the room problem to fix, you discovered that there was actually a different problem that needed to be addressed first. Tell me about that.
Yes. That's that was a really insightful experience because the president of the board called me because she thought maybe if we were in a workshop, we could solve this problem together. And she knew what she wanted, and she wanted everybody to come together in a workshop because she was having a hard time communicating with the people on that committee. And I said, hang on a minute here. You have things that this committee has skipped over, and that has made you annoyed. And for whatever reason, the skip over isn't important. The fact is, it was skipped over. And she wanted to skip over her role to get the problem resolved faster. And I said, no, let's think about stepping back and going back to the committee and asking the committee to do the work that they're doing inside the guidelines. Because if they actually ascribe to those guidelines, they're going to see they need to present a different answer. And then you, as the president of the board, still have room for mentoring and guiding and working with your committee. You're not coming in right away solving the problem and making people unhappy. You're allowing them to come to a different conclusion by the great structure that the organization has. And this is an organization that's over 150 years old. So it works. It's just that this small chapter of this larger international organization got comfortable with themselves and where they were at, and they wanted a certain result. And the president knew that that would not serve the whole chapter. So I gave her a solution to the problem It was not the solution she expected. And when you and I talked last, I had just come from that conversation where I said, "Has this been helpful?" And she said to me, "Yes, it's not the answer I thought you were going to give me, but now I see what I'm supposed to do, and it's the right answer for the good of the group." And I said, "Exactly. That's exactly why nonprofits have policies and procedures so that you can serve the client and serve the organization, your members, your donors, your volunteers. It's really important."
Absolutely. And yeah, so you come along and help remind them of the structure they have in place and help them kind of activate that so they don't skip any steps, right?
Mhm. Right.
Because once, yeah, I get when you get momentum, or when you've been in an organization so long, it's easy to get, like, you in it, complacent, and overlook the hard won and hard earned processes,
Right.
and just bring it back is can often be, like applies to any principle, like, or any organization, is, any problem is, there's usually a very simple solution that's being
Yes.
overlooked.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
you
some
help. Yeah.
I was gonna say sometimes an outside person sharing the observation is able to pinpoint something that when you're up close, you really don't see it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why having a coach consultant is usually very beneficial. So let's see. Uh, so a lot of nonprofits, solopreneurs, even, um, have an idea that they're really passionate about, and then they take this idea, they grow with it, and then they get into a spot where they've grown too fast, or they haven't set roots underneath them, and so they get in trouble. Um, and so they need to take their startup solopreneur mindset to a CEO mindset when they have a um, people reporting to them, or a board, or
Exactly.
what
Mhm.
it may be. And I know that's one of the things that you help people with. What's how do you go about doing that?
Well, the shift from entrepreneur to CEO mindset um, always catches the individual by surprise. Um, and it's a surprise because up until this point, the only thing that they've focused on is where there's a will, there's a way. And I'll get it done at all costs. And when that happens and you start to hire staff, but the staff hasn't had an opportunity to actually step in and do their job, and everybody keeps coming to you and asking you to solve the day-to-day problems, and they're literally skipping over that staff person that you hired to do those jobs. You have to now train the organization to trust that person that you've delegated that responsibility to. And it's like a multi-layered cake, you know, the frosting and the first layer and then the filling. It looks like it's the same, but the filling does a completely different thing than the frosting on the cake. The filling holds everything together. And so you delegating out that responsibility to that new case manager or that program director so that you don't have to solve the problems all the time does two things. It up levels your trust capacity in your organization, and it gives you space as as the CEO to go and actually do the jobs that nobody else can do. And that is a critical step in helping to I'm going to mix my analogy, but it's like when you're riding in a cart and you've got a horse, if you want to have more than one horse in your team, you have to decouple the single horse from the cart and then a structure to connect two horses to the cart. You literally have to stop your operation and redesign your operation so that your organization can move forward faster. And when I explain this to people, those individuals, they're like, oh. I said, because delegating isn't just saying, go do this. It's showing them how to do it in a way that they're learning how to do it in their way, and everyone in the organization accepts and trusts that new way because you accept and trust it. If you, as the CEO, keep going back and, that dreaded word, Summer, micromanage, nothing gets done. So that transition, a big piece of it is learning how to appropriately delegate in the season. And that means unhinging a micromanaging tendency or unhinging someone's feeling lack of confidence, and we as women in business use different terms. Sometimes it's self-sabotage, sometimes it's unworthy or the glass ceiling. All of those things figure into the conversation, and the question is what's appropriate for that individual and what's appropriate for that individual's organization. And so we work to create a better structure for that CEO to operate, literally decoupling and then hooking up to a new structure that helps them operate more effectively and efficiently.
Wow, that's great. Well, first of all, I like your cake analogy because the transition from entrepreneur or solopreneur to CEO, the things you mentioned, the challenges, learning how to delegate. I don't suspect that that's something that's a skill set that just comes naturally to people as they're scaling. And so you come in and take those newly mentioned CEOs and give them the tools they need to effectively delegate to their staff and give the staff the confidence to take those things on, as well as give the CEO confidence to trust their staff to do that. And wow, that's big. That's something that most founders could relate to, having a need for.
Also, it's really important to remember most of the people that are having to go through this are the people that founded the nonprofit or started the nonprofit. And so there is emotional attachment to it that should stay there because it's part of your why. We all have to figure out our why and what's our goals and all that kind of stuff. Your why is deeply connected to your organization. So me saying you have to be the frosting on the cake because you've hired people to be the filling is it takes a minute for people to wrap around the idea that, oh wait, I'm now the face of the organization and I invite other people in with my deliciousness of frosting, and the people that are holding the organization together, that filling in the cake, same ingredients, but it looks a little bit different and it does a different job. So,
Right.
And getting that distinction is that thing that I so elegantly say, just nourishing you through the growth of your organization. People, it is painful, but I'm here for you. So.
Very reassuring to those substantial organizational growing pains.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's
I
see.
mean, if you think about it, think about some very, very famous, now very large organizations that were startups at one point. And I'll reference it loosely by saying tech startups in people's garages. So you get where I'm going with this.
Sure.
They had some growing pains.
Mm-hmm.
Those founders sometimes found themselves on the outside of the organization they created because of the growth pains and the pivots. And I believe, if you are nourishing and growing collectively, you can move through those growth pains and have a different outcome instead of dramatic outsters. So,
Yeah, those painful ones that we hate to read about on TechCrunch or
right.
whatever.
Yeah,
Oh, this CEO got booted by the board. Oh, that sucks.
right. Right.
Yeah. And we talked about how a company, even so, a company is a structure, but each company is comprised of individuals, right? And so you help people on a company level and on an individual level, right?
Exactly. It's nourishing the growth of the whole organization by focusing on the personal and professional development of each individual. And sometimes that's a collective training, but sometimes that's some one on one coaching or mentoring or facilitation that actually helps them. Um, a recent example is they added positions to the company, and they needed to create a connectivity between those positions and the board. And so there was discussion. Are there new committees on the board, or do these committees, financial and program, serve these groups as well? And it was decided that there needed to be another committee on the board. And because everybody on the board was already on two committees, they were very careful, but they voted to expand their board by three positions, because you always want an odd number on your board, for voting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what they thought they were going to do in 60 days was 9 months journey. But at the end of it, they got a better result because through the process of bringing on the right kind of people that fit the board and started to reflect the population that they were serving, they actually qualified to qualify before, just because they increased diversity on their board and they were able to demonstrate a new level of technology that they were using in collecting their data. And all of those activities made them applicable for a grant from their city government, which was huge. So um, they found increased income opportunities while they were working to better serve the organization through increased capacity on the board. And in that change, because every time someone new comes into the organization literally changes. And that's that basic fundamental principle of change management. When you bring new people in, make everybody on the team go through some team welcoming activities, because they're the new people, but they're new to you and you don't know them and they don't know you. It sounds very Dr. Seuss when you say it that way, but when you unpack it for people like that, they understand that, oh, this is a we activity, not a them. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Team bonding, to
Yeah.
put it, right? Yeah. It goes a mile further than just here's your desk. Go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
Oh, here's your
Right.
team.
And read the manual and, all the things, because those are things that everyone should do when they come on board. But the only thing they can't do is get connected into the community, because the community has to be ready to welcome and receive. And when we're busy with our day to day, sometimes we forget that life skill. And it's a life skill. And it definitely changes how you do it from generation to generation. And now these boards are multi generational. You know, there's somebody that's retired and well into their 60s. And because the population they serve is 18 to 23, they've got two, 30-year-olds on the board because they're trying to make the board reflect the population they're serving. So, um, yeah, there's a lot of groundwork for the board to do generationally, and the board was happy for it because these newest members had math skills in social media and posting, and they had to create a rule though. If somebody said a term and at least two people around the table didn't know what it meant, you're allowed to raise your hand to stop the conversation so that the term can be defined, or else, you know, and because the younger kids are very used to the younger kids, those professional 30-year-olds have an abbreviation system that is different than the retired later 60-year-olds. And so just creating some simple ground rules so nobody's offended and everyone is able to help each other, um, is really useful. So, and they even picked out different emoji signs, and they put these on like these little paddles in the basket in the middle of the table, and you had to pick it up and hold it up if were unsure. So they were very playful. So, and that was
Oh,
good.
yes.
Yeah.
Being having freedom to express yourself, express your discomfort or
Yes.
uncertainty in a fun way, man, that's where it's at when it comes to work life, organization life, in my
Well,
opinion.
yes, and it speaks to a trust level that you're building. It authenticates the vulnerability that you're willing to share. That's big, hard stuff. Um, Necessary. And at the end of the day, we have to remember this: organizations are organic because they're made up of human beings. And in this season of AI and all this kind of stuff, an organization is HI, human intelligence. So you got to water it and weed it well.
Amen.
Yeah,
Yes. That's very apropos, very timely point to make.
yeah,
Yeah, AI can never replace HI. Is that what you said? HI?
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So tell me, just as we kind of wrap up here, as an expert in organizational culture and growth and nourishment and development, what is your favorite type of client to work with? And how can they get a hold of you if they want to learn more about what you do?
I think my favorite type is the one that's ready to listen and learn. Um, I don't have all the answers. I'm willing to find some that you are willing to try out. It's all a big experiment, but there is a way to do the experimental so it's contributing to growth instead of continued chaos and disorganization. Yeah. So I love me a good list and I love some policies and procedures. And those are very scientific. And when you're working with an organization, it is all about the art. So if someone is ready to be creative and curious and really needs support in shifting and nourishing the organization, that's the right person for me. And it can be one person, it can be a group that's up to 50 people. Um, and the best way to get a hold of me is really kind of old school. Just email me. So,
Oh, nice. Yeah, email is great. What's
yeah.
your email address?
Angie at thecoachingcontinuum.com. And because you are an email marketing specialist, hat tip to the email. It's still it's still very relevant.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, so just to reiterate, Angie at thecoachingcontinuum.com.
Mhm.
A lot of to your point though, I've heard people say, oh, email marketing is dead. people have been saying that for 15 years, but I think it's obviously I'm a little biased, but I still think it's just as relevant as ever as a digital marketer. There's things to replace it or to augment it, like Slack and whatnot, but yeah, it's still alive and well. So for fellow email lovers that want some help, kind of figuring out some problems with their organization, how to grow, how to be nourished in these, and how to navigate change, you'll want to email Angie here, Angie at thecoachingcontinuum.com,
Right.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and the website is the same, thecoachingcontinuum.com, and there's also a contact me form there that surprise sends me an email that says you want to talk to me. So, but it kind of gives an overview of what you and I have been talking about, the importance of nourishing the organization and the various kinds of services, coaching, consulting, facilitating. Um, it's usually a combination of all three of those when the right kind of project is there, but sometimes you just need one of those, and all of it is appropriate because, um, with a background in education, I believe everyone is in a position to need to learn. And if you give them the right tools and the right context, they will learn. And seeking solutions and nourishing growth is a lifelong process. Um, Let's do that.
What was that last sentence you said?
I said, I like to help nonprofits seek solutions to nourish the growth of their organization.
Fantastic. Lots of opportunities for growth, lots of challenges that could present themselves in the context that you've described. So this has been a very helpful conversation. Um, and I thank you for your time, Angie. And I hope that some nonprofits will reach out to get uh, your careful, thoughtful insight.
Thanks, Summer. I appreciate that you carved out some time to talk to me about the thing I love talking about. So thanks, Summer.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's been a great conversation. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. All right. Enjoy your
Okay.
day. Be well.
Hey, you too.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.